Okay, welcome back to Askademic's intermediate writing course. I am Alex, and this is our first real lesson, section 1. We'll be talking about English style. Now, this might sound a little basic, but it's super important. This is one of these things that will help you sound more natural and more fluent when you write in English. Okay? Every language kind of has its own style, its own rules for how it works, the characteristics for what sounds good. So I want us to think a little bit about that today. On that note, I have a saying on this slide here. I love this saying, and I think it really works for today. So sometimes it's not about what you say, but how you say it. Okay, so something to think about as we move on with our lesson today. So just to go into a little bit more detail, when we are a beginner in a language, we have a really simple goal. We just want to be understood. We want to get across basic ideas. We want to basically understand what people are saying and to express ourselves. And as we become intermediate and advanced, our goal changes. Okay? No longer are we just trying to be understood, but we want to sound a little bit more natural, a little bit more fluent. We're training ourselves to be better understood. So it's a little bit more of a difficult goal, but it's a good thing to work on. And congratulations for being at that stage. It's not easy. And on that note, something happens sometimes when people are learning a language and when they're progressing and getting better. They get to a point where they kind of lose confidence a little bit. They say, oh my goodness, I don't want to say something wrong. I don't want to sound silly. And they become paralyzed. They can't speak, they can't write, and they're just afraid of making a mistake and sounding silly. Okay? Listen to me though. Please do not fall into this trap. Okay? It's no point. It doesn't matter. All right? As we say in English, everyone makes mistakes. Okay? Nobody is perfect. And in addition, learning mistakes is actually how we get better. It's how we learn. Okay? If you are just a perfect English speaker, what's the point of taking this course? You already know everything, okay? So don't be afraid to make mistakes, all right? And lastly, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, okay? People always think that native speakers are really bothered by these mistakes. Oh my goodness, they think I sound so silly. This sounds so wrong. I'm going to tell you, in most cases, native speakers really aren't bothered by these mistakes, okay? They know that you're learning. They know that you're not a native speaker. And you'd be amazed at how forgiving people can be, okay? So don't worry about it. Make mistakes, learn, just write, speak, use the language. Now, to talk about what good English actually sounds like. So basically, every language has a certain style that is going to sound, natural, beautiful, logical to a native speaker. Now, it's a combination of many different factors. It can be cultural, can be grammar, phrasing, many things. Okay, so a couple examples I have on the slide here. So in Japanese, there's a lot of social structure baked into the language. You use certain words to show respect or deference to somebody you're speaking to. Okay? In English, we don't have that to the same extent. Likewise, in French, there's a really big emphasis on sounds and the types of words that people use, and they love big open questions in their writing. Okay? English, very different. Okay? So, what should English or American English sound like? Well, in general, native English speakers, they really like it when writing is clear, when it's organized, and when it's direct. Okay, so a few tips on the screen here. Number one idea should connect to the next in your writing. Okay, English speakers really don't like to work too much on connecting one idea or trying to figure out how it's related. You know, riddles aren't good in writing. We want like a nice, clear line and connection from one idea to the next. Likewise, number 2 here, there shouldn't be many surprises. Okay, so in a similar way, we don't really want to see something that is unconnected, or we're not really expecting it, or we don't know why it's coming up. Okay, there should be a really clear reason for everything that is being written. Number 3 here, so the subject, verb, and the object when we are writing a sentence should all be quite clear. A reader doesn't want to guess what we are actually talking about. What is the subject? What is the subject doing? You know, what object is receiving this action? We don't want to guess. We just want to know. Okay? And along that note, last one here. So English tends to be quite direct and explicit about the subject that it's talking about. Okay? We really value clarity and efficiency when we are talking about something in the language. So what this means is that if you can describe something in 10 words instead of 20, you want to go for 10 words. Okay, sounds much better in English. And here's some useful tips to actually accomplish this. So when you're writing in English, really think about having one idea for each paragraph. Okay, so a paragraph is just a block of text. Okay, so sentences together on a page. Okay, so each paragraph should have sentences that are connected, they all relate to each other, they focus on one central idea. Now, if you want to discuss a new idea, really simple. You just start a new paragraph. All right? And on a related note, try to use topic sentences. Okay? So when we have these blocks of sentences together, the first word should make it very clear what the paragraph is about. Okay? So if I say, you know, my grandmother is a wonderful woman, and that's the first sentence of the paragraph, well, I know that that paragraph is probably about my grandmother, and it's probably about how wonderful she is. Okay. Number 2, as I was just saying, if a sentence doesn't relate to the topic sentence of the paragraph, then it really doesn't belong in that paragraph, and you should think about either cutting it out or putting it somewhere else. Okay, so I want you to do a little practice here. So let's remember one paragraph equals one idea, and one topic sentence really drives the rest of the paragraph in terms of the subject. Okay, so can you spot what would sound unnatural or distracting about the following text? Okay, so I'll read this out loud. I want you to listen. If you need to, you can pause it after I'm done reading, and then I'm going to explain what might sound unnatural or distracting, and you can confirm if you saw it or not. Okay? So, let's give it a try. We should protect our wildlife. They are so important. Bees help to make the flowers grow. Birds spread seeds from plants. I really love sushi, too. All kinds of animals help to keep our world working properly. Plus, zoos are expensive. Every time I go, none of the animals seem happy. Okay, take a second to pause if you need to. And what might sound unnatural or distracting about the following text? Okay, let's take a look. So, we have our topic sentence here. We should protect our wildlife. So, our paragraph here should be about wildlife. It should be about this idea of protecting them. Okay? Now, they are so important. What I don't like here is that they is a little unclear. Is they wildlife? Is they animals? We don't really know what they are. Okay? So that could be a little bit more clear, but let's keep moving on. Okay, bees help to make the flowers grow. Birds spread seeds from plants. Okay, good so far. You know, it's talking about wildlife. It's talking about why they are important. Okay, so far so good. It's connected. It's on the same topic. I really love sushi too. Well, hold on a second. Sushi? Where is this coming from? I mean, I guess sushi is made from fish, but is that really part of what we're talking about? Is that really connected to why wildlife is important? I'd say not really, right? So I would suggest just cutting that sentence out. All right, and then our last sentence. All kinds of animals help to keep our world working properly. Okay, I see how that's connected to bees making flowers grow, birds spreading seeds. Makes sense. Okay. All right, and then up next, second paragraph. Plus, zoos are expensive. Okay, like, I actually don't like that connection, right? Because that's a pretty big jump from protecting our wildlife. It is good because it's a new idea, but it's a little bit of a surprise like we were talking about. So good points for a new paragraph with a new topic. That's good. But the topic's almost a little too unconnected here. Okay, so for me that sounds a little unnatural. Then we have every time I go, none of the animals seem happy. Okay, and the problem here is that happiness for these animals doesn't really seem to be connected to zoos being expensive, right? So there we see that the link isn't really working properly. Okay, I hope you were able to see some of these ideas on how this language doesn't exactly sound natural. Okay, and I hope that helps to give you an idea of what good English should or should not sound like. So it's time for you to practice a little bit. All right, so for today, what is the style of your own native language? What is unique about it? And how would you explain it to an English speaker? Okay, so I want you to think about this and write 2 to 3 paragraphs explaining, and try to use good topic sentences. Try to connect one idea to the next like we talked about today. All right, take a look at this journal activity, spend a few minutes writing, and I will see you next lesson.